Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Sometimes family can be, well, a little tricky, especially when it comes to in-laws.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and setting boundaries can feel like navigating a minefield.
Yeah.
Like you want to keep the peace,
Ay,
but also stand up for yourself and your little family unit. So we're diving deep into this today.
all right.
We're going to figure out how to handle those tricky in-law situations without, hopefully, causing a full-blown family drama. And we're using a fantastic article as our guide today. It's called Dealing with In-Laws, Setting Boundaries Without Causing Conflict. Sounds promising, right?
Yeah, I like that title.
Right. We're going to break it down, pull out the most useful tips, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll have some actual strategies you can use in your own life. So to start, have you noticed, in your work, is this a pretty common thing that people struggle with? This whole in-law boundary thing?
Oh, definitely. I mean, family dynamics are complicated enough as it is, but yeah, in-laws add this whole other layer, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a whole new set of expectations and relationships to navigate. And it's so easy for things to get misinterpreted or for people to feel, well, stepped
Upfront,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like they don't have a voice or their needs aren't being met.
exactly.
So, before we even get into the specifics, can you talk about why boundaries are so important in any relationship, not just with in-laws?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Boundaries are really about, well, at their core, they're about self-respect and respect for the other person. It's about defining where your space ends and theirs begins.
Right.
It's not about shutting people out. It's more like drawing a line in the sand and saying, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I need to feel safe and respected in this relationship.
Okay, yeah, I like that. And the article actually uses this great analogy of a fence,
Oh,
right? It
yeah.
says to think of boundaries like a fence around your yard.
Mm,
It's there to protect your space and give you control over what comes in and out.
love that. So simple, but it really paints the picture, right?
Right, right. And it makes sense because if you don't have that fence or those boundaries, things can get messy really quickly.
Oh, for sure. And that's when resentment builds and then boom, conflicts explode.
Right. It's like that saying, good fences make good neighbors.
Exactly. It applies to family too, maybe even more so.
So where does this whole idea of respecting each other's autonomy fit into the fence analogy? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So autonomy basically means having the freedom to make your own choices, right?
Right.
In the context of in-laws, it's about recognizing that you and your partner, you're your own family unit now, and you have your own values, your own traditions, your own way of doing things.
Yeah, you're not an extension of your parents anymore.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that can be hard for some in-laws to accept, especially if they're used to being very involved in their children's lives.
Yeah, it's a shift for sure.
It is. So setting those boundaries early on helps everyone adjust and understand those new roles.
Makes sense. So how do you actually set those boundaries without causing a ton of drama? Like the article talks a lot about open communication, but what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, so open communication is about expressing your needs clearly and honestly, but it's also about being a good listener, trying to see things from their perspective. Even if you don't necessarily agree with them, at least you're understanding where they're coming from.
So it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Empathy goes a long way, and so does respect. Even if you disagree on something, you can still acknowledge their point of view. That can really help prevent those blow-up arguments.
Okay, that's good advice. But let's get real for a minute. Let's talk about some of those specific scenarios that people often struggle with, like unsolicited advice.
Oh, the dreaded unsolicited advice, the
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, right. Especially when it comes to parenting. I know a lot of parents who um, get a ton of input from their in-laws about how they should be raising their kids.
Oh, it's so common. Everyone has an opinion, especially when it comes to babies.
Right. So how do you handle that gracefully?
Well, the key here is to be assertive but respectful. You can thank them for their advice, but firmly state your own choices, like, thanks, Mom, I appreciate your input, but we've decided to do things a little differently.
Okay, so acknowledging their intention,
Yeah,
but still making it clear that you're the parent.
exactly. And sometimes you have to repeat yourself. Boundaries are about consistency.
Okay, good point. What about other tricky situations, like dealing with frequent phone calls or visits?
Oh, yeah, that could be a big one.
Yeah, especially if your in-laws are the type who, drop by
The
unannounced.
drop-ins, yes. The key here is to set expectations early on. You can have a conversation about what works best for everyone. Maybe designate specific days or times for visits or calls.
So it's about being proactive.
Exactly. It's easier to set those expectations up front than to try and change things later on.
Right, right. And the article really emphasizes the importance of starting early with those boundaries, like from the very beginning of the relationship.
Yeah, starting early can prevent a lot of headaches later on. It establishes a foundation of respect and understanding.
Okay, so if you're just getting married or starting a serious relationship, like, now's the time to think about these things.
Absolutely. Have those conversations early, set those expectations. It will save you a lot of stress later.
Good advice. Now, we can't forget about the holidays.
Oh, the holidays.
Yeah!
Prime time for family drama.
Right. All those traditions and expectations, and everyone wants things done their way.
And everyone has a different idea of what the right way is.
Exactly. So how do you navigate that minefield?
Well, compromise is key and flexibility. Maybe you alternate holidays between families, or you create new traditions that blend both sides.
That finding that middle ground, right?
Yes, it's about making sure everyone feels respected and included.
So it's not about winning or losing or having things your way all the time.
Nope, it's about finding solutions that work for everyone.
This has been so helpful. I feel like we've covered so much. We talked about why boundaries are important, how to communicate them effectively, and how to handle some of those classic in-law challenges.
We've given you the tools, now it's about using them.
Exactly. And remember, setting boundaries is a way to protect those relationships, not damage them.
Right. It's about building stronger, healthier connections.
So as we wrap up today, here's a final thought for you to consider. What's one small boundary you might need to set in your own life, maybe with your in-laws or even in other relationships? And what's a concrete step you can take towards making that happen?
Don't be afraid to start small. Even those tiny steps can lead to big changes.
Absolutely. Good luck out there, everyone.
You've got this.
And thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic.
See you then.